Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast for 2022. Don't worry, we're staying around for next year. Don't worry about that. But regardless, it has been a great year. We've made lots of progress on the TikTok side of things. We look forward to YouTube. I will probably do a State of the Union address at some point. But boys, it's the final day of 2022. We got some great bowl games today. How are we doing?
Dude,
I'm doing great. It's been a good year. Great talking with you guys throughout this year. We really started, December 2021, got kickstarted in January, and have been going at it for a full year. I think this is episode 50 almost.
Isn't that crazy? My
Yeah,
goodness.
I mean, we've been doing this for so long. It's like, and I somehow haven't gotten bored of you yet, Raffi. So we'll see how it goes in 2023. Let's keep moving forward.
yeah, I mean, it's been great recording with you guys. I think the one thing that keeps me going is Theodore's poor takes. Um,
I'm
you know,
sorry.
like,
What did I say about Denver in the preseason?
He does have the
all right,
Broncos and the
What did I
Vikings
say would
takes.
win the NFC North?
fair, fair point. But remember what you were saying about Qatar in the World Cup as well. All right,
Well,
Yeah.
to be fair, I will give him credit. The climate did have an effect on Morocco. You
Yes.
can you can correlate something there because if you had
Morocco
watched
is not
any
in the
of
same latitude.
if
I
you
just pinned down
watched
the wrong
any of
teams.
Morocco's matches in the playoffs and also just in the group stage, those were packed. Like 90% of the fans that were attending were Moroccan fans. So
Great idea by me, poor execution. But look,
you chose
all
the
my
wrong team. You chose the wrong country.
all my Daniel Jones takes, especially.
We should just make a compilation. Hopefully, we get to a point one day
Yeah,
where we can
Should.
find someone to just make a compilation of all of
Oh, and
Theodore's Daniel Jones takes.
don't forget that I have been talking about Kyler's downfall since
Oh,
probably
absolutely.
of last year. And I was right. Look, yeah, he
Some
tore his ACL, but before that, he sucked. So
some compilations will be coming potentially in 2023. But let's get into what's occurring now. We'll start off with the first thing, my favorite tournament of this time of year, the World Juniors, the U20s, which is a hockey tournament. For those who are wondering, a lot of the top players, Trevor Zegras, for example, Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, they've all played in this tournament at one point.
Mhm.
Those are currently going on, and boys, they've been kind of chaotic. Theodore, I don't know if you've been watching too much. Davian, you and I have been talking about it a little bit. Aside from Austria, who just keeps getting absolutely, I mean, they did lose to Germany yesterday 4-2 as we're recording this New Year's Eve, but in the morning of it. It's been a tournament of a lot of parity. USA losing to the Czechs, or sorry, they lost to the Slovaks, and then the
yeah.
Czechs, Czechia, beating Canada 5-2, which was hilarious to watch. Uh, Davian, any thoughts on the World Juniors? I don't know if you've been watching too much of it, but I'm sure you've been seeing some of the parity that's been going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of crazy to see how well the Canadian team has been doing. Uh, back 2 games they've scored over 11 goals. Well, they've scored 11 goals, which hockey statistically, like scoring, 4 goals is like that's like wow, okay, like you did good. Scoring 11 is just absolute blowout, and for them to do it 2 games in a row, first time against Germany and then a shutout win against Austria, 11-0. I think they have a really good shot of winning it all. The American team, I like, the reason why I like watching the American team is because you get to see the young talent. It's like last time I was watching Trevor Zegras, he ended up being now, the face of he's kind of in some ways becoming the face of the NHL. And in some ways, I think that if you, by watching the World Juniors, are able to see who's going to be on the rise. And at least for the American team, it's the third Hughes brother, who's been doing pretty well as well. But I was a bit disappointed with their performance against Slovaks, and hopefully they can pick it up next game.
Yeah, 100%. I think just watching Connor Bedard has been very nice and great for me. Obviously, to those wondering, who is Connor Bedard? Think of Connor McDavid type of draft type and potential. Might not get all the way up there, but he's a franchise-changing player. And for my Chicago Blackhawks, who I think I've won twice in the past 2 months, I've been really enjoying watching Connor Bedard tear up a bunch of these U20 teams. I just want to also shout out Latvia. They played really well over the summer in August in the tournament, really broke onto the scene. And although they have yet to win, they put up a great fight versus the US. They've looked really good versus Finland and other teams. So I hope they don't get relegated. I'm sorry, Austria, but I mean, hopefully Austria gets relegated, but I'd like to see Austria on the up and up soon. It's been great also watching, as Davian, you mentioned some of the younger guys. There are four prospects: Nolan Allen, Kevin Korchinski, Ethan Del Mastro, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, and Colton Dock. Four Blackhawks prospects on Team Canada. So watching them all just play really well and have success because, again, the Chicago Blackhawks are awful this year, and hopefully we can pick up Connor Bedard. But that's enough hockey talk for now. We'll keep it
Yes.
going over the next couple of weeks. Theodore, I want you to talk a little bit because you've been quiet. Luka versus Giannis. Luka put up 60 a couple nights ago, absolutely balled out. And Giannis, the Greek freak, is doing Giannis type things. Is this just a two-headed race for MVP this year? And I mean, if it is, it's going to be an absolute barn burner all the way.
This is the most star-studded NBA season I really think we've seen in probably my lifetime. Yeah, Luka's doing things we've never seen before. 60, 20, and 10 in an NBA game is absurd. Like, you always see these stat lines, right? Whenever there's a weird stat line, you see the footnote under it, like first player to do this since Wilt Chamberlain. This is something that Wilt hasn't even done. That is how you know just how mind-blowing it is. Giannis, meanwhile, has put up 40 and 20 in 2 straight games. Something that Wilt did a ton, but still, I mean, it's absurd that's being done in today's NBA. In addition to that, Jokic continues to just make mind-blowing passes, crazy stat lines from him. SGA would be an MVP favorite probably in any other year, but it's just
Yeah.
these guys are insane. I'd say it's a two-sided race right now. Jokic just can't win because recency bias. He's not going to get it again after not winning a ring. But yeah, Giannis and Luka, it's probably going to be an MVP race for the ages.
Yeah, I really think it's going to be between Luka and Giannis. Both have been playing stellar. I think this entire NBA season, you've seen like teams just overall the performance of like all teams has been pretty darn good. I mean, yeah, you do have some barn burner, like you do have some teams that are just tanking, kind of like the Blackhawks in the NHL.
Victor
But
Wembanyama and Connor Bedard are the golden prizes for teams that tank this year. So it's a lottery. So you're not guaranteed those guys, but
yeah,
if you're really bad this year, of Wembanyama, how do you even say his last name? I need to work on that. And then Connor Bedard are very nice prizes to teams that suck just enough and get a little bit lucky.
yeah, and then I mean, I'm a Knicks fan. It was sad to see
What happened?
them absolutely.
Weren't they just on like a 7 game win streak and now they're on
They
like a
were.
They
7 game
were,
losing streak?
they were, they were, and then now they're not. It's sad. We lost the Mavericks up by, I think it was 9 points with like 12 seconds left. Um, yeah, and no comment on that. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's not been
but
stellar.
the NBA is just absolutely absurd right now. I mean, there's all these players doing incredible things. 6 players averaging 30 right now. KD's at 29.9, so basically 7. You've got, I'm just going on scoring numbers right now. You got 17 players averaging 26 or more. That's unheard of. Yes, a couple of them will probably fall off, but it's just absurd what all these guys are doing. I mean, how about Zion? Zion is, you can talk about Luka and Giannis all you want. Zion's probably the most dominant player in the league right now with what he's doing.
He's
He's,
alive.
Yeah.
He's not
yeah,
injured.
he's alive and well, and he's doing everything I thought he would. And then, the guy leading all the scores, Joel Embiid, barely is getting talked about right now because what he's doing is equally as absurd. I've never seen this much star power in the NBA.
Absolutely. I'm gonna have to start to tune in a little bit. I haven't watched an NBA game in years, so I might have to tune in this year because the way you guys are making it out to be seems like a year that you certainly do not want to miss out on
And
watching.
as much as we all love to hate on LeBron, man just dropped 47 points on his 38th birthday.
Wash.
That's kind of crazy. I think that kind of shows LeBron and his dominance is still there. I
Like,
don't think it's as well as it was before, but
he's not necessarily the best player anymore, but it's LeBron. And Russ is balling too. And if they say together, the Lakers are an NBA contender. I stand by that.
Absolutely. One last thing as well, because you mentioned LeBron, and I've been seeing on ESPN now that he is now very close. I think he's like 500 points away from the scoring
Yeah.
title. And obviously that reminds me of Alex Ovechkin, who picked up 802 a couple nights ago. I think he's at 803. He just passed Gordie Howe's 801 to move into firm place of second all time in goals for the NHL. I think Wayne Gretzky has like 980 or something, so that's definitely
Yeah.
something to or 890, pardon me. That's definitely something to keep tabs on over the next few years. He's obviously not going to get it this year. That'd be kind of crazy. Maybe if he plays the Chicago Blackhawks the rest of the season, he can get there. But he's definitely going to get there in a few seasons. So that's going to be something fun as well to keep tabs on. Before we get into college football talk, we are happy to announce our first ever brand deal with the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. Is it with someone who's on our podcast? Yes, but it's still a deal, and a deal is a deal. I will now give Davian the floor.
Right. So this is the first ever brand deal for the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast, and we are being sponsored by my clothing brand, Fishing Penguin. Fishing Penguin is a company that stands for individuality and breaking society's boundaries. So in the same way that we are trying to break down society's boundaries of saying that, there's too many sports podcasts. There's no way that there could be another one and you could be successful. And in the same way that we are taking on, really podcasting through the approach of TikTok and really long form videos while everyone's been moving to short form videos. We're trying to really kind of break those boundaries the same way that the clothing brand represents breaking boundaries and one's individuality. So I'm proud to announce that my clothing brand is sponsoring Benchwarmer Sports because not only do they stand for the mission of Fishing Penguin, they also are in some ways representative of what it is.
Look, it's really, really simple. I'm going to jump in here. Two of us are wearing the shirt right now, me and Davian. One of us isn't, Raffi. If you're a viewer watching this, do you want to be like Raffi or do you want to be like me and Davian?
Where I'm
The
wearing
answer
this
is
like
Exactly.
garbage, this Chicago Blackhawks garbage. My goodness.
It's very simple. Go down to fishingpenguin.com and order a shirt. You could use the code Penguin10 to get 10% off your order. And thank you for Raffi for allowing my company to sponsor us. And I hope you enjoy the products.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you see Tom Brady wearing this all the time. Michael Jordan, I've seen wear it a couple times. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I think we just had to hop in at some point just because it's being taken by storm. But yeah, definitely check that out. We'll definitely have some more reads in the future and hopefully a very long, prosperous relationship with
For
Fishing
sure.
Penguin merchandise and Benchwarmer Sports. Now, after that first and hopefully not the last ad read, let's get into some college football. We'll start off with the 11 a.m. game today. This podcast will go out after the game, but we're talking about this before the game, so I will count this still as official predictions. Let's start off with Bama, Kansas State. Will Anderson Jr. and Bryce Young, two very highly touted prospects, both expected to be playing today from, I believe, yesterday when I was checking. I don't know if you guys have any update on that, but from what my sources were telling me, they are both playing, which is obviously great. You love to see it. And Kansas State's been a team that they always play up to their competition. They always play to their competition, and they're always a team to watch to pull off an upset. Deuce Vaughn is a dog. I'm not sure if he's playing in the game, but regardless, I think that this could potentially be a very high scoring and fun game.
I agree.
100%.
I'll let Davian take this one first.
Yeah, I think Bama's going to win. Roll Tide. I got nothing else to say.
Deuce Vaughn
Okay.
is playing today, so that's going to be really fun to watch. Will Anderson Jr. take on Deuce Vaughn.
Look, I've hated on Alabama this year. I have laughed at Davian's incessant and constant roll tides.
He says roll
Roll
tide?
Tide.
Then I got an email from the University of Alabama. It's college application time, and they're saying, you can apply. We might be willing to give you some significant money to go here. So now, you really think I'm going to go with an anti-Alabama take? Roll Tide. The Crimson are going to win this game, and they are going to embarrass the weak, pathetic Big 12 conference.
100%. Roll Tide.
I'm gonna take Alabama, but I think it's gonna be close, as Lee Corso would say, close Alabama. Moving on to the next game, we have Tulane versus USC. Davian wanted to discuss this.
I
Davian?
did. I really did. So I've been following Tulane for a while. Tyjae Spears, their running back, has been going crazy. They are a team that has been on the climb throughout the season. They beat ranked teams. USC, we saw what happened during the last game. We
Did you just say what
saw,
happened? USC, what happened?
exactly. Yeah, USC, what happened? How'd you lose to Utah? But I think USC is way too banged up to beat this Tulane team that has been strong on the rise. I think Tulane's going to come out as the winner. I'm rooting for Tulane. Roll wave. And you're going to see Tyjae Spears go absolutely off against this USC defense.
Tulane underratedly had, I don't even think that's a word, but regardless, we make up new words in 2023. Tulane has been very underrated this year, where I didn't
They
even
have
realize
been.
they're ranked 16, and I just keep forgetting that they're 11-2 this year. Obviously, you lose to Southern Miss, Missouri, and that's kind of a rough loss to have early on in your season. But aside from that, your only other loss is a one-score game versus UCF. That's pretty good for Tulane, especially a Tulane
Yeah.
team that has had little to no positive
They were
record
2
for
and
the
11
past
last
couple.
year, so they
Exactly.
absolutely flipped it.
So that
Their
program
head coach is doing
That
great for
program's certainly
their
on the up and
program.
up, and it'll definitely be fun to watch them take on USC. Theodore, any thoughts before we continue on?
My thoughts, not about the game. I'm proud of you, Davian. Back in September, I never thought you would be capable of that kind of intelligent college football take. The
Thank
analysis
you. Thank you.
on point. Talk about evolution to close out the year. Shout out Davian. Yeah, USC is
Thank
going
you. Thank
to
you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Moving on to the Rose Bowl, Penn State versus Utah. I'm very excited about this game. I think that this, aside from the college football playoff games, because those are always good unless a team's playing against Notre Dame, which is fun for me. I enjoy it, but it's not fun watching Notre Dame get absolutely clocked around for a couple times. Notre Dame did win last night for Theodore's approval, so I'm sure Theodore's happy about that. Put them in the top 10 now. They should be in the college.
right.
La 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 la. They beat
Yeah,
Spencer Rattler.
look, I can't defend the Iowa.
Spencer Rattler has looked good though, down the stretch for
Yes.
For USC South Carolina. So I just want to give some props there. But yeah, Penn State versus Utah. I think Utah wins here, but
Yeah.
Penn State still had a good year. I just think Penn State, when they play against higher competition, they tend to not play up to that level this year, which is very weird because normally in past years they are right up there with Ohio State, and the University of Michigan. So I do think Utah's gonna win. I just think Utah has some swagger with them, but I think the game's gonna just be a really good game regardless, and definitely one of the top five bowl games looking back on this season.
For sure. But I do agree that I think Utah's going to win. Their performance against USC was amazing. I think their defense is really, really good. That was the one game I did watch. I did watch USC Utah, so that's why I keep talking about it. I think I think Utah ends up coming out on top. I haven't been really impressed with Penn State's
The
performance
thing that
throughout
makes
this year.
Utah so much more impressive, just their season in general, is the fact that they beat USC by a point back weeks ago. And they proceed to not only beat USC again, and USC has definitely made adjustments. They've seen this Utah team before. The way that Utah just absolutely flabbergasted USC in the Pac-12 championship game. This Utah team, I said it going into the year. I really like this Utah team, and I just think that they're just on a mission right now.
Yeah.
I really like them going forward. The Pac-12, if USC and UCLA stay around in the Pac-12 next year, that's going to be really, really fun because you're obviously going to have Caleb Williams returning for one more year. You're going to have Oregon, who's always going to be good. I don't think they're
Bo Nix is returning too.
right. Bo Nix has been also a
Yeah.
revelation this past
Oh,
year.
so Oregon went crazy in the transfer market.
They did.
I'm sorry, in
I
the
think they're like
portal. I
top
mean, signing
five.
day. They went
They're one of the
nuts.
top
Yeah.
teams after the transfer portal. And then obviously, like they just don't live up to their expectation. Utah obviously is always just good. And then Penix is coming back for UW,
Yes.
Washington. They
They
looked
won a
really
lot
good.
against.
They looked very good versus Texas a couple of nights ago in the Alamo Bowl. I really like how Washington finished their season as well. But Theodore, any thoughts on the Rose Bowl before we
Yeah,
move on?
I absolutely love what you're saying about the Pac-12. They're going to be incredible. Utah's going to win this game, and it will be the official coming out party of Cam Rising. He's been absolutely incredible this year. Hasn't
Yeah.
gotten any NFL hype at all, and I kind of understand it to an extent. He is 23 years old, going to be 24 next year, which he will return, I believe. However, I don't know. I see something in him. People.
He's got
He
that dog
always
in him.
Yeah. In addition to having that dog in him, he just has NFL potential to me. I really think that he could be something in the league, and in a very stacked QB class, which they really say it's going to be a stacked one. I think he could be a gem for someone in a late round position.
I have a great idea. What he can do is he can do a pro day, snap the ball, roll to his left, chuck a ball across his body, really deep, 60 yards to a guy on target. That one play will get him to be taken in early in the first round by the New York Jets. So, Cam Rising, if you're watching this podcast, which I'm sure you are, that's a great way to bolster your draft stock. Even if you don't have the flashy potential, you can throw a ball very far in the opposite direction. So, I think that's definitely something that I value so much when I'm looking for a quarterback. There's some Zach Wilson slander entering 2023. Moving on to the big games that are occurring today. TCU, Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia. For one, I don't like rematches, but if we get a Michigan, Ohio State, the Ohio State college football playoff championship game, I'm for it. That game would be insane. Michigan would probably win that game, which I'm still indifferent about. But regardless, a Michigan Ohio State game to be to decide who is the champion of the college football playoff would be absolutely remarkable. I think personally, I just want to pick TCU. TCU has just been an underdog team. They remind me so much of Michigan last year. I really, really like Max Duggan has been great. He declared for the NFL draft, which I'm a bit surprised about because I think he could have come back for another year, really balled out, potentially been one of the frontrunners for the Heisman and really bolstered his draft stock. But obviously, things happen. Spencer Rattler, I think that's just a case study of you can just absolutely tank your value over 1 year. So, but
Right.
Duggan's going to the draft. Good for him. Hopefully, he gets taken. He's probably more of like a fifth. He's a late round type quarterback. But regardless, my heart says Georgia versus Michigan, or my mind says Georgia versus Michigan rather. But my heart, I really want TCU Georgia. I don't know. I just want to see TCU in the college football playoff championship. We don't see teams like TCU very often, and I'd love to see TCU.
Are we really going to count out the Buckeyes, though? I mean, we keep saying
No.
Georgia, Georgia, Georgia. I mean, let's not count out these Buckeyes.
CJ Stroud has an opportunity right now to jump Bryce Young and be QB1 in the NFL draft by far. Obviously,
100%.
It's very
100%.
close. CJ Stroud wins this game versus Georgia and looks good versus whoever, Michigan or TCU in the college football championship. He is going to the Houston Texans. No question.
Well, hey, you're telling me Davis Mills can't be QB1?
Well, I think Davis Mills is still a quality. He can be a guy who can come in if you need a backup and play a good number of games. Like the Arizona Cardinals next year, I think they would love to have a guy like Davis Mills.
But also, they don't have the Texans. I mean, I know we're getting into football. We'll go into more later on. But the Texans haven't really built around Davis Mills. And I think that's kind of something that we're seeing when it comes to these QBs coming out of college. They're from these big programs, especially Ohio, Michigan.
Say it.
No, I will not say it. I will not say it.
But you do make a good point because you look at
Mac Jones.
You look at Justin Fields and you see how if an offense is not crafted around him, it took the Bears a year and a half to realize, let's have Justin Fields run around a little bit. He's a mobile quarterback, and it's dude, that's like having Lamar Jackson just chuck deep balls the whole game. That's not his game. So you make a good point with the offense and who is around the offense is huge, and that's why I expect the Bears to be very active in the wide receiver.
That's why I think there needs to be much more respect given to QBs coming out of smaller programs. Look at Josh Allen. He's been balling, and he came out from what was it, South Dakota?
Wyoming. I'm very happy we did not have a podcast back then because you would have heard a lovely take of me saying that Josh Allen's going to be the worst quarterback coming out of that draft. So I'm very thankful that we weren't doing this 4 years ago.
Yeah, so I think there needs to be a bit more respect for those, QBs coming out of like smaller programs, especially with them balling out. Except for Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson is
Yeah,
just,
you say all
yeah,
that, and then we bring up Zach Wilson, who's the horror story. Never take a QB from his football program.
yeah.
I think
I
Um,
mean,
it's
that's why
just
you
hit or
don't
miss.
take anybody from
You
BYU.
gotta take the good with the bad, and after watching some videos that are very anti Zach Wilson, I kind of agree with a lot of what they're saying. Obviously, I am no scout. I am no, I do not have enough knowledge to, or the time rather as well, to break down all this film of people to craft my own opinions. But there is some, there were some pros where he had the Patrick Mahomes type arm where he could just chuck it, but there's also some flaws that looking at some videos, you can really learn a little bit about like, oh, okay, like this is where he had some flaws. He's kind of just like willy-nilly. He just throws it into tight coverage all the time, which obviously isn't good.
Yeah.
So it's hit or miss. But I do want to still, getting back to the college football playoff games, I want to hear who you guys think is going to represent both sides in the championship.
I've been so high
Michigan,
on.
Georgia.
Okay, thank you for that, Davian. I've been so high
Yeah.
on TCU all year. Um, they just always found a way to win,
Right,
and it's
exactly.
this loss though to Kansas State, like it puts so much doubt in my mind. Like I don't know if they went into
Michigan,
this game
Georgia.
undefeated. Davian's right. It's going to be Michigan, Georgia, Ohio. I think Ohio State gets smoked. I think TCU keeps it competitive, and Michigan is the better team.
People forget
I don't think
TCU.
Ohio State gets smoked, but Michigan, Georgia.
I just want to mention though, TCU allowed a big touchdown, a 44-yard deuce ball touchdown run to put Kansas State up 28 to 17, and like there were still 10 minutes left in the game in the Big 12, sorry, championship game, and TCU still just fought back. So I just think TCU, if they're gonna lose, they're going to be kicking and fighting the
Agree.
entire way. They came this far. I don't think that they're just gonna be like, oh, okay, like we're here, that's great. Like, no, this team is in it to win it.
No,
So,
the moment won't be too big for them. That's
oh
something
no.
I fully.
Well, we see it all the time. TCU is obviously, again, the Kansas State game is deterring a lot of our opinions on TCU because I just want to say TCU has been great in one score games. They've played in so many, which I'm so indifferent about because as much as like I want to slander the Minnesota Vikings for having all those games, but it really is hit or miss. But I think the one score games for TCU has been a very big builder as a whole for them. But yeah, I think that'll do it for this edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. We have a bunch of other stuff like JJ Watt announcing his retirement, obviously Brock Purdy being a dog, Derek Carr being benched. That stuff's gonna have to wait for our first podcast of 2023. But we hope you enjoy all the podcasts over the past year. Once again, if you're watching this instead of the TikTok, which I don't know why you would because we don't have too many subscribers on here, but regardless, if you have yet to follow us on TikTok, be sure to do so. Benchwarmers for Sports. 3 followers from 500. We're trying to
By the
hit that
time
before.
they're watching this, we already would have hit 500, right? I believe it is.
Exactly.
True. Yeah.
Exactly. But regardless, we hope you enjoyed this podcast. We look forward to 2023. Be on the lookout for some TikToks and some YouTube shorts coming up soon. We will be getting some up over the next couple of weeks. And yeah, for Theodore, for Davian, we hope you enjoyed and have a great new year in 2023.
Peace.